Hello everyone and welcome to SkillCapped. I'm Notorious Dub and today I'm going to be going over one of the best agents to be picked up on the map Split, KILLJOY. And when it comes to Split, we're talking about a map that is notoriously difficult to attack on, and if you're not winning the half 9-3 or 8-4 at least on defense, then you're likely going to have a tough time finishing off the game on the attacker's side. So today I'm going to be going over the best defensive agent on the map, KILLJOY, because she is an absolute game changer on this map, and by picking her up and working in the default setups, ultimate lineups, and optimal attacks that I'm going to be showing you guys here, you'll start closing out games as one of the best agents on one of Valorant's hardest maps, and in turn you're going to boost your win percentage to help you climb those ranks. But of course, before we get too deep into the video, we have to start with our question of the day. And today I want to ask you guys, what's your favorite role to climb with in ranked? Now, I've been a duelist main with a bunch of Viper thrown in for a while, but it feels like whenever I play a Sentinel, I'm able to lurk properly and fill a role in position that lets me stay alive, be picky about my fights, and end up getting a ton more kills with less deaths in the long run. Now, duelists are fun, but being able to be picky about your fights instead of always trying to force them seems like a huge game changer to me. But I'm sure you guys have a ton of different opinions than me on this, which is exactly why I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite role is to try and climb the ranks of Valorant with. Alright, let's start with defense because Split is incredibly defensive sided, and by optimizing our defense we can put ourselves on the path to those huge 10-2 and 9-3 halves that we shoot for to help finish out our games. Now, if your team has a Sage, then you should always be playing A as KILLJOY because Sage is going to be walling mid, and in turn she can have slows to stop the B main push as well, which will give your team time to rotate and actually stop that push. But in solo queue, let's be honest, you're going to want to swap it up to keep the enemies guessing, and also make sure that you're the one locking down the bomb sites that your team is having trouble with because you have all of the utility instead of just hoping that your 3 insta-lock duelists can hold it together. So the standard A setup that you're going to be using should look like this. First and foremost, you want to tuck your alarm bot slightly deeper into the bomb site and out of the way so the enemies can't destroy it early, but also they're forced to trigger it if they fully commit to the site. And the nano swarms that you're going to be throwing should cover the entirety of hell and most of the walkout onto site. And the best way to do this is tuck it right beside the ramp onto site, but 1 tile length away from the ramp. That way it will cover fully the back right corner of hell that enemies could tuck in otherwise. And your other swarm should cover the rest of the front side of hell. From there, pull your turret back behind the billboard on site, but be sure to put it peeking out at the left side. This way, when the enemy walks down onto the bomb site, you have a huge crossfire of utility to pop off with. Whenever they hit the alarm bot, they're going to trigger the turret, and both nano swarms are going to get popped by you. This is going to stop their entire retreat and slow them down because of the turret, leaving themselves stuck out in the open as free kills for you to swing out and pick up. And the other strategy you're going to want to use for A side is to keep control of the heaven area. This is great for when your ramps player wants to play towards mid to keep mid control for a round, or just when you have your ult up and are okay playing for a retake. So the crucial part of this hold is to place your turret down on the drop part of the deep side of heaven, which makes the turret effective but also extremely difficult for the enemies to hit and destroy. From there, you can still throw all of your utility just like we did last time to heavily stop the push and help your team rotate before they actually get the plan off. But a great place to play for this strategy is on top of the box in heaven, because this allows you to peek off of your turret's contact and have a huge chance of getting a kill while still being able to fall back safely. And you can also pop your nano swarms off of your alarm bot's contact and peek out to try and pick up kills on the enemy's chaos from trying to get away from the swarms. Or if you have your ultimate available, you're going to want to save your swarms for this overpowered setup I'm going to show you. So first of all, KILLJOY's ultimate covers a ton of area, and you want to make sure you're using as much of that area as possible. Most people like to ult from screens, which is a decent ultimate, but always gets pushed and doesn't really force the enemies out of a main. But a much more consistent and safe ult to use is inside of a heaven, tucked on the wall to the right of the heaven window. With this, you're going to want to throw one or both nano swarms. First should be a running throw aiming just to the left of the crown coffee sign on the right side of sight, and the other should be a running throw on the left side of sight aiming to the right of the bottom of the trim of the big pillar on site. And these 2 nano swarms will take care of the only 2 safe spots on the site, and everyone else will either be detained on site or pushed all the way back to where you can essentially take the site and defuse the bomb before they can even get there. And remember, if you're serious about improving, then go to SkillCapped.com to unlock our hyper improvement system that will teach you how to win more gunfights, master your agent, and so much more. It's also backed by our rank improvement guarantee, so you really have nothing to lose. So come join over 500,000 satisfied members of SkillCapped, improve that KDA, and get the rank you've always wanted at SkillCapped.com. Link is in the description below. And then we have the B-bomb site. Now the B-bomb site is where a ton of Killjoy players like to play, but for some reason as we get to the higher levels of play we see a ton more Killjoys go play the A-bomb site, because objectively B site is much more difficult to retake when your team doesn't have great coordination. So locking down B site would be great for your win percentage as well. And the best setup that you're going to want to use for B site is making sure that you throw your turret deep in the back of the site so it can't be destroyed early, and it gives you something to swing off of when the enemies run away from your nano swarms. Now once again you're going to want to throw your alarm bot where the enemies are forced to commit to the site before it triggers, and your nano swarm should go near the top of the sewer pipe on the ground so it covers that deep part of sight, forcing the enemies forward, and the other nano swarm can be tucked inside or on top of the white trash can in the stack of boxes outside of B main. And with this setup the enemies will routinely walk past the first nano swarm into the alarm bot, which cuts their path out whenever you trigger the other nano swarm, which means the only place they can go now is forward or to the side, and both of these will get shot by the turret, which you can swing off of from hell or default on site to pick up those free kills. And then the alternate setup you're going to want to use is when your team is having trouble holding control of heaven, or you just want to help it out for a round. Put your turret on the edge of rafters so it can cover B main as well as heaven at the same time. This allows you to swing and kill any enemy that triggers the turret from either angle. And the utility you're going to want to throw should be designed to stop the plant, because you're focused on getting one kill and then backing off a little. And a nano swarm right at the edge of stairs will take care of the main default plant locations. And for safe measure you can throw your alarm bot deep so when the enemies walk past the nano swarm you know to pop it. And the other option you have is to set up your utility to hold heaven if you're really having trouble with it. This way the enemies are forced to stay in mailroom for too long and they're in a vulnerable position when sitting there. And then we have the B site retake ults. Now I see so many people using bad ults for this, but there are two standard retake ults people throw. The one right outside of CT entrance, which is great, but it's very exposed and doesn't force the enemies deep into B main. There's also this box slightly deeper back that allows enemies to be back site or at the entrance to B main, but it is very safe from utility. And finally, the best ultimate for retaking B site is if you can get control of hell. Now hell is usually somewhere defenders retake from, and at some point you're going to want to need control of hell anyway. And if you're able to plant your ultimate deep in the corner of hell, the enemies will have to push and force the fight, putting them on a timer instead of you and putting the pressure on them instead of you. Or instead of that, they have to run so far away through B main that they actually have no chance of being able to get back and stop the defuse. And that's usually what happens. If the other team doesn't have a raise nade or a raise ult in position ready to destroy your ultimate whenever you put it down, your team usually has to kill the first person that steps up to try and peek the ultimate, and everyone else is gonna run for the hills. Now, let's move on to attacker side, because it's usually more difficult for Killjoy players to operate effectively on attack. Now with A site, you're gonna want to clear out A main quickly with your team so you have control, and throw down your turret so it can see all the way to screens, as well as hold the A ramp peek from the enemy team. As you walk up, you can use your alarm bot to clear out the close left corner that people love to play with shotguns in, or if you're not scared of that angle, use it to hold the heaven push that people love to peek out of a smoke into. From there, you can throw your nano swarms to protect the defuse, but oftentimes you're going to be dead if the enemies are attempting to defuse because there's no good escape anyway. So instead, I like to use my nano swarms to stop the enemies from pushing back site. And the best way to do this is to use one close beside the billboard to prevent that close push, and for elbow, which is where most people are going to retake from anyway. And these swarms are going to buy you that valuable little bit of time to try and isolate the fights when the enemies commit to the push. And that's going to increase your win percentage by making it more difficult for the enemies to peek you from both sides at the same time. And then with the Killjoy ultimate, there are only really two strategies you can implement for the A site. First, you throw your ultimate in the corner of cubby in A main, which is what you're usually going to do, and this is going to clear out sight. But you have to be careful of the screen peek, because the enemies don't get pushed out of there by the ultimate, and they can quickly peek from heaven after the ultimate expires as well. Or if you're confident with your team's sight take, use your ultimate on the far side of the flower pot and take control of screens afterwards to prevent it from getting destroyed. Or just hold the screen's peek from hell and try to pick up a couple of kills when the enemies swing and try to destroy the ultimate. Either way, the enemies are going to have to either commit early before their team gets there to try and destroy the ultimate before it expires, or the ultimate is going to push them back extremely far into CT spawn, wasting about 20 seconds of their time and forcing them to fight the ultimate before their team rotates. If they don't do that, it's going to put them on a very small timer to get back to the site after the ultimate expires, and gives them almost no time to coordinate or retake effectively. On B site though, you're going to want to prep to come out of of B main with your teammates, and you're going to place your turrets out in the open or on top of the boxes on the left, giving you information and utility to swing out and kill enemies heaven with. Now with your turret watching heaven and hell push, use your alarm bot to watch the CT walkout for yourself, and use your nano swarms to either protect the bomb plant or stop the drop down into hell. Now hell is the most dangerous place to fight enemies retaking the bomb site from, and a nano swarm deep in hell forces them to either die to the nano swarm or push out into a terrible fight, easily allowing you to pick up a kill before the enemies finish setting up for their retake. And the ultimates that you're going to use are very simple, and all of them come from B main, because it is the safest area from utility and enemy damage. Now traditionally you're going to use your ultimate on top of the box in B main to protect it from utility, but it forces you to clear out backside as you take the bomb site and allows enemies to peek you from heaven very quickly after the site take. But another option you have is to throw it on the very far right side of the wall of B main. This gives the enemy a little bit more room backside, which you would have to clear out anyway with the other ultimate, but it does push them back deeper into the heaven and all the way out of mid, giving you more time to clear out the site and get the bomb down before they can peek you from heaven. Or you can always throw your ultimate all the way on the left side of the wall, which isn't necessarily recommended, but this one is usually a little more vulnerable to the enemy utility and allows you to clear out back site with a nano swarm very effectively. But this one will allow you to enter the site a little bit earlier to start the clearing out process, because it is much less dangerous on the site because so much more of the area is being covered, and backside can really be cleared out easily with a nano swarm. But remember, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank you've always wanted, then check out skillcapped.com. Link is in the description below. But what do you guys think about KILLJOY in the current meta, and how do you think she stacks up to the other Sentinels? Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn those notification bells on, because we here at SkillCapped have a ton more comprehensive premium guides coming your way that you're going to want to stay up to date with so you can stay ahead of the pack. As always, I do want to thank you for spending this little bit of your day with us, and I'm Notorious Dub, signing off.